Welcome to another wonderful Reality Check podcast with your hosts, Big Mike and...
Your brother from another mother, double A-A-R-O-N, son?
And we are here with a guest today.
Oh.
My beautiful black wife, Lashawna.
Damn.
On this Valentine's Day, well, pre-Valentine's Day episode of our podcast, number tres.
Number tres.
For all those Chinese people out there.
That's you.
So, we're going to talk about a certain subject that she's probably got a lot of knowledge in. And before that, we're going to dive into the week that we've missed.
Well, the week that we did miss, the last time we ran a podcast, the Super Bowl happened, and that was about probably one of the most boring games I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, luckily I did not catch most of it. I caught the ass end of it when they were already losing. Oh, I said I didn't get to watch most of it because I had to work. But I did catch the ass end of it, but they were already down 13-3. So, yeah. But Lashawna did catch the Super Bowl. And how did you feel about it?
It was absolutely horrible. By far the worst sporting event televised that I have ever witnessed in my lifetime. Everything from the commercials to the way the game was played, to the two teams that were there, to the halftime show, to, three points, a field goal. It was absolutely horrible.
Electrifying.
Horrible.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard the halftime show is pretty terrible. What I hear.
Yeah, it was more of just like Adam Levine like ripping off his shirt and showing off his like prison tattoos. And
No, I didn't necessarily. I wasn't like intrigued. I didn't know Adam Levine actually was bulky like that, so I wasn't like an ooh and ah, it's Adam Levine. But whoever did his artwork did a phenomenal job. That was some good artwork. I think that was actually the highlight of the whole entire Super Bowl. Was I was so intrigued by whoever his tattoo artist was that I was like, damn, could I be that rich to get tattoos that well done? But it wasn't his body. I love Maroon 5, don't get me wrong, but it was just his tattoo, his artwork was absolutely beautiful. But besides that, from beginning to end, even the Budweiser commercial with the dog and the horses, they're always supposed to be good. Horrible. Doritos. Horrible. It was everything was horrible. So that's just my take.
So the highlight of the Super Bowl was Adam Levine's artwork. All right.
Absolutely. I don't even know who scored the touchdown to give them their 7 points, because it was field goal, and then a touchdown. Like, great. You guys are great.
It's probably Edelman or something.
I think it was Sony Michel ran it in after Gronkowski got like a long 27-yarder. Then Sony Michel ran it in. Then they got the one touchdown, and basically from there, just all around a horrible game. So it was very uneventful.
Yeah, I agree.
They should be ashamed of themselves.
I didn't even watch the highlights. I usually will watch the highlights of a game or something.
What highlights?
There's no highlights to watch.
Oh no, I can go on to YouTube and watch the game, like the quick hits or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll pass on that.
No. I didn't want to watch it in the first place, but it just... Our son woke us up, and then I was really irritated with him for the rest of the night. Like, you should have just let me sleep, man.
So you want to dive into this UFC stuff?
Surely.
That was really short.
Well, in a way, I'm glad the football season's over with because it was just kind of an exhausting year, especially with Seattle kind of struggling here and there. You know, we're like in the end, in the fourth quarter, we're possibly going to win the game. We end up losing by like a field goal or a touchdown or so. That I have my Sundays from not watching football. So.
Cutting in and out again. It's always fun.
Oh, did I lose you for a second?
Yeah, you lost me for a second.
Ah, son of a bitch. Well, anyways, we're just talking about football, so nobody really gives a fuck. Football season's over with, so you know what? I probably got a shitty signal because of all this damn snow that's falling down around here in Seattle.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we got like 1.5 feet out here.
Yeah, we got about a good 10 inches.
It's pretty crazy for over there. I mean, that puts that city to a halt.
I know, like, everybody's freaking out. Like, I went to Fred Meyer's the other day, and all of the produce and all the milk was gone. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, son of a bitch.
Dude, the same thing happened to us. We went to, what was it, Walmart?
Well, we went to Winco and Walmart, and everything was...
Yeah, it was gone like the fucking apocalypse was about to happen or something. I'm like, did I miss the memo, or what's going on here?
Dude, I don't get it. It's like, just get food in your kitchen until then, you know?
What was that? You cut out again.
Son of a bitch. Oh, I was just saying, like the snow's gonna melt in like 4 days. So like, do you not have enough food in your kitchen? You know, to like people around here, like, you know, they just went on a shopping spree, like all throughout Western Washington. Like, there's news companies going, news stations going to grocery stores, filming people shopping. I was like, what the fuck? It's like, the snow is going to be gone here, like, by, like, next week, you know. I just stock up on a couple, like, cases of hot ramen or some shit, you know. You'll be fine. So, but then again, we're not accustomed to having snow like this, so it's just one of those white people problems.
They don't know. Yeah, they don't know any better over there. I mean, apparently here they don't know any better either. I mean, this place doesn't get very much snow usually either, so, you know, maybe they don't know.
They just don't know. And also, you wanted me to come over right before all this.
I know.
Imagine if I did, I would have been stuck somewhere on I-90.
Help me.
Yeah, I broke down again.
So always remember blankets and bottled water. Exactly.
So, UFC, Mike?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, yesterday we had a UFC pay-per-view down in Australia, and the main event was scrapped the day of the pay-per-view, which was ridiculous because I was looking forward to Whitaker defending his title against Kelvin Gastelum.
Fucking Whitaker again.
I know. There's something sketchy with UFC fights like that. I mean, just like the one we went to in Vegas, you know, literally like a day before, you know, Holloway drops out of the fight. It's just, UFC can be really disappointing at times when they have these big fights get canceled like the day of or the day before. So in place of that, Anderson Silva fought Israel Adesanya in the main event, which is pretty entertaining. What did you think of that fight, Mike?
I thought it was dope. I mean, it was like watching, you know, the protege of Anderson Silva, you know, coming up, doing kind of the same type of deal. Obviously, you could see in the fight that Stylebender's a little bit faster than him. It seemed like a lot of the punches wasn't affecting Anderson too much, though. Stylebender was like really skinny in that fight, if you noticed. It's kind of weird.
Maybe he's just really skinny, or maybe it's just the illusion of Anderson Silva's dad bod.
Maybe so.
Looking at him, during the introduction and everything, they're announcing his name, record, where he's from, and he's wearing his signature yellow tights. And I'm looking at his midsection. I was like, damn, Anderson Silva is kind of getting old, once you kind of like really look at him. Because yesterday, right before the fight, I got to see this little animated video they did. They take a picture of him like standing there with his hands on his waist for when he debuted up until the week of this fight. And you can see the transformation in his face and also in his body. Like damn, once you kind of look at him from 2006 up until now, you can definitely tell Anderson Silva has gotten a lot older.
Yeah, he was definitely a lot slower too. He's usually faster than everybody, and in this fight, he definitely was a step behind.
Yeah, for sure.
But on a positive note, Israel looked fucking phenomenal like always. That dude is like crazy. He's crazy good.
No, he's legit. He's definitely legit. I see him. Well, the thing is, they're gonna have Whitaker and Gastelum fight here in a couple months because Whitaker had that emergency hernia surgery, so they said his recovery time is gonna be like 4 weeks. Announced pay-per-view for Chicago in June. From what I heard, I think they're trying to push Gastelum and Whitaker for the main event of that fight.
Doesn't matter. That motherfucker will back out again. That's what Whitaker and Holloway do, man. They don't fight like once a year.
Yeah, but so Israel Adesanya ends up winning the decision over Anderson Silva, which was a really entertaining fight. Kind of changing of the guard. They're trying to build a star out of Israel Adesanya. So, but afterwards on the press conference, Anderson Silva was talking. He's like, yeah, I talked to Nick Diaz, a couple of months ago, saying, and a couple of weeks ago, that we should fight. He's talking in his Portuguese accent. So Nick Diaz is like, obviously he's down to fight again, because Diaz and Silva fought once back in 2014, I believe, January 2014.
Yeah.
And it went to a 5-round decision, and it was a kind of entertaining fight, but I would like to see them fight again. And once Anderson said that, Conor McGregor tweeted out, says, well, if you fight Nick Diaz, I'll sign the fight to fight Nate Diaz in Brazil too. So if we can get that fight coming up in May, that would be an entertaining fight card, I think.
Yeah, that sounds great.
That sounds fucking dope, dude.
I mean, how did that the last Nick Anderson Silva fight go? Did Anderson kind of dominate him or what?
There's a lot of showboating. At first, they were trying to feel each other out. Like Nick Diaz, was just getting impatient with Silva because Silva's more of a counter fighter, and Diaz just started taunting him, started laying on the ground, yawning, backing up against the cage, and flipping him off, and saying "Stop the motherfucker" and all this other shit, So it had a few glimpses of a few good exchanges, but I think it could have been a better fight. But it's been a couple years now. They're getting a lot older. Hopefully they can put on a more entertaining fight than they did. But nonetheless, though, I would still love to see that fight. Also, I would love to see Nate Diaz against Conor McGregor, in a trilogy fight. I think that'd be, really entertaining.
I'm down to see any of the Diaz brothers fight anytime.
Fuck, I know.
Especially the shit talking.
Any of them even fought,
I know. So what'd you feel about this dude getting fucking cheated by the referee?
Again.
Alvey. Is it Alvey?
Yeah, that was Smiling Sam Alvey. He fought this new up-and-comer named Jimmy Brute, or Jimmy...
What was that?
Off of the Tuesday Night Contender series. And, apparently Sam Alvey, he's had issues with that referee, Mark Goddard, to where he's had a couple fights where they stopped the fight a little too early. And apparently Sam Alvey told Mark Goddard, he says, if I'm in any type of trouble, I'll give you the thumbs up. And Mark Goddard obliged, said, okay. So, and what do you know? First round, Sam Alvey gets rocked, gets dropped twice. He puts up the thumbs up, and Jimmy Crute is dropping punches on him, and Mark Goddard stops the fight with the thumb right in his face.
It's ridiculous. I can tell you one thing, Sam was not smiling.
Definitely was not smiling. The first time I've never seen him smile in his whole career.
Yeah, that was pretty fucked up, man. I mean, I thought it was terrible when I saw it, and then when he was running around screaming at everybody all pissed off, I was like, oh yeah, he definitely got fucked over. And then I saw the replay of him putting up his thumb right in front of the fucking referee. I was like, what? Come on, man.
Yeah, he definitely had a Bobby moment after that fight. He's like, what the fuck, guys?
Fuck this, I'm going home.
And that was pretty much the whole fight card right there. A lot of the prelims, throughout the duration of the main card, was a lot of local guys, a lot of unranked guys. So nothing really too, exciting, but probably one of the more lackluster pay-per-views I've seen in a while.
Yeah, especially for a numbered UFC event, it was pretty lackluster.
Yes, it definitely was. I was pretty disappointed.
It was more like a fight night.
It should have been a fight night.
Yeah, I agree.
They're down in Australia, I want to know the numbers that this pay-per-view actually did.
It's got to be not that great.
I think so. Probably
a lot better than the Super Bowl.
It was definitely more entertaining than the Super Bowl. But other than that, that's it for UFC news and for this past fight card. And there's nothing really else coming up for UFC. There's a UFC coming up next weekend, actually. But you got Cain Velasquez coming back fighting Ngannou. But the entire fight card looks kind of more no-namers, kind of boring as well. So nothing to it for UFC.
Yeah, that would be a good... Well, hopefully it'll be a good one as long as Ngannou don't fucking stand there and dance around. I don't think that's going to happen with Cain, though. Cain's going to take him down.
I think so. I think Cain Velasquez is going to come out and murk Ngannou.
Yeah. He's at least going to smother him and put him on the ground. I mean, I would. He has no wrestling ability, and Cain's a good wrestler, so... I foresee ground and pound in his future.
Oh, yeah, just like how Stipe did, Stipe took him down with ease, so...
Yeah.
And Velasquez is a way better wrestler than Stipe Miocic, so I think Velasquez is just going to mix it up, push him against the cage. Ngannou's not going to know what to do and just lay there, get beaten up, and get his paycheck and go home.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, that guy.
Yeah.
So what do you got? You were talking about some events possibly coming up here that are pretty interesting?
Just events in general.
Were you just talking about the Diaz brothers and stuff?
Yeah, I was pretty excited to hear that. I mean, for Conor McGregor, because he has a lot of pull at the UFC, Yeah. He has a lot of say and input on his fights, and he's cleared to fight. So, and he always wanted to fight in Brazil, he says. So he got pretty excited when Anderson said he'd like to fight Nick Diaz in Curitiba, Brazil in May for the UFC pay-per-view then. So then he's like, well, if you do that, then I'll book the fight to fight Nate Diaz, because both Diaz brothers, like, it's hard to even get them to fight, like, you know, unless it's a big time money fight. So definitely Nate Diaz would definitely show up to come fight Conor McGregor, and Nick Diaz supposedly already agreed to fight Anderson Silva. So hopefully it happens. You know, I'm pretty excited for it if it does.
The stars have to align on that one for sure.
Oh, yes. For sure.
All right, you want to dive into this topic for today? You there?
Yeah.
You want to dive into the topic?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so our topic for today is interracial dating. And we have the expert in this, Lashawna. Welcome, Lashawna. I know you weren't talking very much, but you're going to have your chance coming up here. So what do you want to talk about exactly with interracial dating?
I don't necessarily think interracial dating is the right term. Interracial relationships is more or less. I think we're past the dating or whatever. I mean, some people aren't, obviously, but I think I wanted to just kind of dive into what the experience of interracial dating and what it's been like for people in interracial relationships over the past couple of years, and the barrier that I seem to find, as well as speak with many other women or men that are in interracial relationships, and the issues that have arisen over the past couple of years while being in those interracial relationships. And yeah.
So what exactly are some issues that you deal with?
So I obviously I'm a black woman. I'm actually mixed, but you know, society calls me black, so and my husband is white.
What?
I know.
Jeez, oh my God.
We're doing things all wrong now.
I'm sorry.
We're out of control. And I think what I really want to dive into is the experiences of what me and Mike have endured or gone through, and what other people like us have gone through, especially over the past couple of years. And obviously interracial dating, or I mean, it used to be a crime no more than 50 years ago. And you know, back then, of course, things were a lot different. But I've kind of found that over the past couple of years, some of the things of my history as a black person or as a black human being, I kind of have been feeling that history has been repeating itself, as it does, you know. And I just, the experiences that me and maybe some of my girlfriends talk about, or some of my guy friends talk about being, having these minor issues, nothing that would break us up, nothing that would put us in separation, nothing that would cause for divorce or to break up or anything, but these small little things that continue to keep occurring because of the lack of understanding or the lack of experience from both parties, where it creates this barrier, especially if you're married to a white man or you're married to a white woman. and you happen to be that minority, how difficult it's been. And I've just ran into a lot of people and discussed this matter plenty of times about personal issues that we've been going through within our relationships that create arguments or create a sense of jealousy, envy, lack of understanding, irritation. I mean, the list, of course, can go on. And it's not your normal fighting because, you didn't take out the garbage or whatever. These are serious issues that you don't ever think you're going to face. And then once it starts happening, you're kind of just stuck in this feeling at looking at the person that you love, and just questioning, like, how do you not understand? But also understanding it, you can try and sympathize and walk through somebody's shoes, but at the end of the day, you'll never personally experience what that person goes through. So that's kind of what I want to discuss what me and Mike have talked about, and how we're working on trying to solve these little minor issues of me feeling that there's definitely some issues going on, and they have definitely sprung up, and it didn't used to be that way, and now all of a sudden it is that way. And I don't know if it's social media. I don't know if it's just things maybe you've suppressed. I don't know if it's whatever. I mean, it's just a difficult topic, but I don't think, as much as we talk about racism and as much as we talk about division and separation and stuff, I don't think people really actually talk about, like, what it's like to be in a interracial relationship and have the other person be white with their privilege, in my opinion, and have the person be a minority who feels they're oppressed. So, I mean, maybe getting from two male perspectives, Aaron, you're one of my fellow minority brothers, and I mean, you've dated some pretty colorful women. So,
oh yeah, I've been around the spectrum.
Yeah. So, have you ever found yourself to be, or I mean,
I was gonna say, before I get to me, like, these issues and maybe sense of like harsh judgment, would it come from like family, friends, or possibly strangers when you guys go on like vacation, or you guys are out just right there in town? Like, what type of experiences would you guys go through?
Okay, so obviously being, I grew up poor and whatnot, and my grandma's white and she raised me, and I pretty much went to all white schools and had all white friends, and but was still always treated differently by my friends' parents, or I was that poor kid that the parents felt sorry for, and oh, well, you're the first black person we ever had in our house. I was that kid, and experiencing things just growing up, being followed in stores, police brutality, things that just go hand in hand with your overall stereotypes of minority oppression. And so as I got older and I started dating and stuff, and I've dated all different types of men, black, white, whatever, red, yellow, all of them. I meet Mike, and he's a strong white man, and we it was never about his race, as I'm sure it wasn't for him, for me. Just a very strong connection, spiritually, emotionally, all of that together. But we have definitely, we lived in, when we were in Spokane, you get your looks and your stares and your snickers. And it happens to the white women that date black men, that's just normal, typical stuff. But it also happens to black girls that are with white boys, And then Mike moved us to Texas, and, I only lasted 11 months there because of the segregation, because of how uncomfortable it was on a day-to-day basis to even be in my own skin. The judgmental looks, stares, snickers, questions of, how are you with a white boy? Why are you with this black girl? Things like that. So then we moved to the Seattle area, and that was also different for us because it was a little more, it wasn't more culture. There is more culture there. Not segregation though, but
it's probably more diverse.
It's more diverse. There we go. That's the word. Yes, definitely more diverse in Seattle than Texas. Texas is definitely separated. In, you're over here and we're over here. So yeah, we've dealt with issues which never really seemed to bother me. But over the past 2 years, while living over here in the Tri-Cities area, we've been dealing with anything. Mike has not dealt with it, but I have dealt with it. And I've dealt with a lot of racism over the past 2 years. Anything from being called the N-word weekly, at a gas station, in passing, screaming out your car window, to having people say they're going to call the cops on me and my child, to sitting down in restaurants and having, bikers with their white pride and their Ku Klux Klan outfits and their motorcycles and their lightning bolts and stuff, walk into establishments, and from anything from, just waking up daily and being afraid, am I going to come home, and when am I going to get pulled over by the police, this, that, and other. All things in which my husband does not experience or can relate or understand what it feels like to wake up every morning and be afraid when you're driving in the car and your heart starts racing when you know that there's a police behind you. I'm licensed, I'm fully insured, but my heart, it goes 1,000 miles per beat. And so those are some of the small issues that come up to where Mike doesn't, what is the word? He can just kind of just turn a blind eye because he says it just doesn't affect him. It's not that he's not sympathetic, which that is one of the issues. It's that he just doesn't care. And it's not that he doesn't care about my feelings. It's that he just pays it no attention and he doesn't allow it to affect him emotionally. And so those are some of the issues that arise, with maybe small arguments or little, bickering that goes on, because it's very hard as a minority for me to feel as one when he says that it doesn't bother him or that he won't allow it to bother him, and neither should I. But the problem is I don't let it bother me because I don't act in some psychotic, angry, stereotype, crazy, angry black woman rage and go off on somebody. But it does bother me mentally and emotionally. And we're learning how to A, communicate about it, and B, try and figure out solutions on how to not allow it affect me, but how do you stop it from affecting you? You can't turn emotions off, and you can't turn daily and pretty much for my whole life's experience of racism and discrimination, how do you just turn it off? I ignore it the best I can when I'm out in public, but at home I have to have some release. So I think that's what I kind of want to dive in as a whole. How, how over the past couple of years, the racism has come to the forefront. It's always been there, don't get me wrong, but it's so just in your face now, and it's not hush hush anymore, and there's all this intimidation, and people are very bold now these days. White folks are very, very bold, and it's just learning. It's hard when you're in that interracial relationship to get the other person to try and understand, but I know how my husband feels about it. And so it's, as he spoke about earlier, we were talking about it earlier, he kind of explained it to me as we're both looking through two different lenses. And we kind of bickered a little bit because he says that my lens is a biased lens. And so I would like him to elaborate a little more on that conversation on how he comes to that conclusion.
Well, first off, Aaron, do you, as a minority, do you find some of these things to affect you?
I can't really identify with a lot of the same experiences Lashawna would go through. Because even though I look, me being a brown person, being Alaskan Native, being part Mexican, I look really, I have many different looks. It's just depending on the season, right? There's times where people think I'm Mexican, if I grow out my facial hair. As people think, Native people think, that, they'll know I'm Native. There's some people that think I'm Filipino at times, I've heard. There's some people thought I was Middle Eastern one time. So
I can see that.
There's at times, it just depends on, I guess, what I look like, because sometimes I just switch up my look just whenever I get bored. But not to get too far off a topic, I never really deal with any, racial issues. Because, like I said, being born and raised here in the Seattle area, it's always been, primarily, it's always been diverse here. There's never been, a whole lot of racism. If there was, I was never really a part of that. But I have dealt with racism when we went to oil pipeline in South Dakota.
Yeah.
When working out on the pipeline, everybody's white. I think I saw one other person of color on the pipeline, and that was just for a minute. And the rest of the time there was just all white people. So, and I remember just a few times working with a few people, I kind of found humor in it. I didn't let it bother me because I didn't really give a fuck, because there's this one guy, he says, hey, Mexican, hey, the Mexican. He'd refer to me as the Mexican. So, but even though I'm part Mexican, I'm not gonna let this shit bother me, because if I give it that power, then it's just gonna make me miserable, mentally and emotionally.
We lose you?
But as far as, oh, sorry about that. I'm telling you, it's the phone signal I hear. But like I said, if I don't tap into that, because if I give it that power, it's just gonna make me, mentally, emotionally, just feel like shit, So, but racism, that's something I never really dealt with, though. I mean, I've dated, people of different ethnicities. I definitely have not dated within my own race. I know that, Native women, because they're all fucking batshit crazy. So, I mean, I love my mom, love my sister, but I've seen them in their younger days and how, maybe it's amplified by, alcohol, but still, I just know I've seen other Native women get crazy too. So it's no secret. A lot of Native women, when they get really drunk, they just want to get really emotional, or they just really want to fight. So I'm just I'm good. I'll just date outside my race, and I've been loving it ever since.
So you've never had issues with parents before, or feeling maybe a little uneasy about that? Because we all know, I am married to Mike, and we've been together for 11, 12 years, something around there. And we all know his dad's a full-blown racist. So, I got to deal with that. Or, previous relationships where parents were maybe not necessarily racist, but they were still stuck in the 60s. And, I was still the colored girl that their son was dating. Or,
Yeah.
my best friend, her parent called me, my daughter's best friend is a colored girl. So it's all, and I don't necessarily, I don't think it was them being racist. I just think that was the time that they grew up in, and no one had ever really explained that, obviously, because they've never really been around people of color before. So, it's how you're raised, and, I definitely put them in their place, but, I definitely have always had an issue, so you've never had an issue with, like, girls that you've dated. So, with parents maybe looking at you differently or treating you differently or saying weird comments or anything like that.
Not initially, or probably not even at all, or more, I just didn't even pick up on it.
Okay.
I just think it's just, once people get to know me as an individual, I think they're more accepting of that rather than being, judgmental, of the color of skin I have,
Absolutely. And I do agree with that. I do believe that I've changed a lot of people's minds and perspectives on black women, minority women as a whole. I find I actually enjoy doing that. That is something that I've always, maybe a small gift that I was given or something or a reward that I like to claim for myself, is being able to change people's perspectives and thought process, and is that, I'm more than just this shell of a body that you're seeing. I'm more than just my color,
Yeah.
But I find myself, I've always had to be that person to do that. So that also just comes in with the whole perspective of just growing up, and life experience for myself is a constant battle with race, and then being always in interracial relationships, and I've dated plenty of black men as well, but nobody, I wasn't coming home to parents and stuff like that. Those were in my younger years or whatever, but just always finding it difficult. But I just definitely feel since and I hate to be like the status quo or the since we had a certain somebody not necessarily take control but become our puppet in chief, it's just caused a lot of issues, and there is definitely talk, but it's small talk. It's amongst friends, it's amongst girlfriends, it's little text messages here, little groups here, whatever, but it's not really talked about loudly, the experiences that interracial couples have been going through over the past couple of years since racism, which has always been around, let me say that one more time, which has always been around, but since it's now it's moved on to our generation for us to experience, and it's it's the vocal point of topic. It's the topic at hand every day. But it's
pretty sad.
It is pretty sad, but it is also something that I've lived through my life's experience. So pretty much what you just said, when you said that you don't allow people to affect you in that way or whatnot, I think that's where, that separation where I come in, and I'm just like, I understand, because Mike says the same thing. I don't allow it, but how do you not allow it when it is almost daily in your life? It's your life experience. You can ignore it, which I do, but it doesn't mean that it still didn't happen. And it doesn't mean that it still didn't leave some type of imprint on your path or on your journey. And Mike would like to say that it's because I'm emotional or I'm sensitive, But at the end of the day, it's every day. So when someone lives through that every day, how do you not allow that to affect you?
I can imagine how difficult that could be, you know. I mean,
do you kind of see where these little issues, when it actually happens to you, and then it's everywhere you turn, and you know, I've shut off social media before. I've stopped listening to things, but if I go to the grocery store and I'm hand in hand with my husband and our light-skinned looking beautiful children, and the stares and the snickers and the snide looks and the little small comments that he may not hear, but I hear them and I see that. You know, how does one not allow that to affect them? And those are some of the things that we definitely deal with. And so Mike sitting here being quiet,
I'm just listening to you.
Okay. Sorry, I don't want to be the only one talking, and I apologize about that.
No, I can dive into two things really quick. It's like you said, you find it kind of funny that it's happened since Trump's been in office, and
no, it's not he's been in office. It's just been highlighted, and because I feel that white people have become so bold. Mm-hmm. Over the past couple of years,
that's what I was gonna say.
That the stares and the snickers didn't used to affect me the way now that the stares and snickers, but now there's the comments. And now there's the little snide, you know, things that they didn't do 2 years ago that are now there every day. 2 years ago, I don't think I'd been called the N-word for maybe 5 years, maybe 6 years. But now I'm pumping gas and I'm driving down the street. I'm calling you on the phone and shaking, telling you that I'm worried that someone's going to be following me and our child home because I told them to slow down in a parking lot, and they cussed me out and said they're going to call the police on me, and I was worried that they were going to follow me home. You know, those are the type of things that I'm dealing with daily. And so when I come home and I talk to you, and then for you to say, well, I just don't let it bother me. I just, or like you said, Aaron, and I hope you guys don't feel like I'm trying to be mean, but, or, you know, I just don't pay it attention and I won't allow somebody to oppress me or this, that, the other. How do you not... So I guess my question is, since we're openly talking about it, how do I not allow myself to not feel some type of way? And it is some part of oppression. And if it's happening to that person daily or weekly, how do I not pay that attention? And how do you not understand that and make me feel that you are sympathetic to that?
Well, I understand it. I do. But like I was gonna say, you know, I find it kind of funny how since Trump's been in office that, you know, it's empowered a certain group of people to be more bold and feel like they're running this shit basically, and therefore also creating oppression through their actions, creating oppression through social media. Also, certain people that even you might be listening to that think they're doing a service to yourself or others emotionally, they are in turn oppressing you also in a way to make you feel like everything's a threat, everything's a problem. Everything is going bad. Everything's blowing up. You know what I mean? It's like it's they have algorithms on the internet that play into what you feel, what you think, what you look up, what you know, and play into your emotional and you know, just stressing you out, you know, with things that are going on, or they're going on, but they're not going on as much as they're playing it out to be going on, and therefore oppressing you in the process. Even though they might not be trying to oppress you in the process, they are oppressing you in the process.
But that still doesn't explain the daily physical treatment that I receive every day.
You're getting that because people feel empowered by also the social media, or the people that are in power that are telling them that they got that right. It's the same thing. So they're in turn, like, where you're being...
So it's like a third party, and so I'm just supposed to...
Right, so the actions of certain individuals are making people feel empowered, and the actions of certain individuals are making people feel oppressed in the process. It might be even happening on your end with the people that you listen to. They might feel empowered by talking about it or letting it be known that it's happening, but in turn is oppressing the people that it's given the information to. And then I wanted to touch on the thing you asked me earlier about different lenses. And you're asking me how one could be skewed. Lens could be biased, right? I think that all lenses are biased. I think that we all have our biases over things that experiences that we experience, things that we experience, the people that we interact with. We have all these biases about different things. And being an oppressed black woman gives you a skewed or biased lens on certain topics and certain things that are happening. As where I see through a different lens because I'm a white male, I see things a little bit differently than you. And that's what I was getting at with the lens thing. And I think that even Aaron, being a native Mexican male, sees things through certain lens that he sees things through.
I think I just got more, what's the word I'm looking for? More range. Like, I can tiptoe around by not feel like I'm getting, like, judged or, I've never been a target of really racism up until that one time being out of South Dakota. So it's just like, I'm not really, like, Mexican, but I'm not really, like, fully native. So I'm just kind of, like, in the happy medium to where I feel like at times where I never had to really deal with racism, fortunately. But it's sad to hear these things happen still. I mean, if Kennewick of all places, because I've been to Kennewick, and sure, you got some of the, white dudes in their big old fucking hee-haw Ford trucks, just with their big old monster truck tires, just hitting the gas, driving by, and, just looking all, jeez.
There was three. That was three, because 3 out of the 5 times I've experienced that was yeehaw, big truck, making up for my small penis. Size, driving down the street. So that was 3 out of the 5 times that I was called the N-word, and came home and either told Mike
what would spark these things? Would it just be a random act? Say,
random acts. For instance, I was just pumping my truck, and I want to say it was probably a week after they had, a week after they put Trump into office. There was about 3 episodes, and then 2 over the past, I would say 8 months, with the,
So what would be the scenario? You're just pumping gas,
walking
these people would drive by and just say,
yeah, they would say, yeah, they would, it was definitely...
was it unprovoked on their part, or was it more
literally I'm putting the gas cask, I'm putting the gas in my car, and it's like, fuck you, nigger, Trump, like that.
Oh, jeez.
Or it was backwards the second time was Trump, fucking nigger. And then the third time was, I think I might have been going into Fred Meyer or something. And as I was leaving Fred Meyer, and the truck backed up, and then goes Trump, nigger, like that, and put his hand up. The kid that was 3 younger kids, couldn't have been no older than 18. Which really, that one really bothered me the most. Because kids, they have nothing to lose at that time, and that's their mentality. Was, driving through the parking lot. It had just got done raining, going 40 miles per hour, and sure, it's 11 o'clock at night. There's really nothing to do here besides go hang out at the parking lot at Walmart at 11 o'clock at night. So I totally get it, but not when my son is walking and you've got your window down and you drive by me at least 35 to 40 miles per hour in the parking lot. And all I said was, do you mind? What I said was, slow down, do you mind? And so all of a sudden the car comes creeping up behind me, and the kid in the front seat goes, why don't I just call the cops on you and your fucking kid, bitch? And then puts his hand out the window and goes, Trump. But his hand signal was the Hitler signal.
Jeez.
So I, of course, immediately got in the car. I called Mike, and I was, like, crying, of course. I think I was more or less crying, I don't think it was because I was scared, and I was scared. But I was so heartbroken that a child that age was already filled with that much hatred. And it really bothered me because I have a child that's going to be 18 in a couple of years. And to know that you're already filled with that much hate, it really, really bothered me. And I love people. So it was really, I was scared. But of course, Mike's at work, so I called my friend Alicia, and I made her stay on the phone with me until I drove home, and then I ended up pulling over because I just couldn't stop shaking, and I was really scared. And then about 8 months ago, one about 8 months ago, one about 6 months ago, was just your normal, typical attitude, Winco. Someone was being rude at Winco, and I was just, maybe I should not have said, you don't have to be an asshole. And he's like, well, you don't have to be a nigger. Okay.
God.
You know what I'm saying? So it's little things like that, where when I come home, and I'm in this but what's the point? Hitting gives me the bad look. And that's the problem. Because no matter how I try and channel my emotions, whether it's negative or whether it's a positive way, either way, I still feel like I lose. I kill them with kindness. And that's what I said to the dude. I was like, really? You couldn't have said anything better? Even though it hurt me to the core. If I act violent, then guess who's going to jail? If I act and cuss him out, guess who gets called the angry, crazy black woman? If I kill him with kindness, then I'm too uneducated to do anything about it. If I come home and have this conversation with my husband, it's, well, don't let it bother you. Don't let it affect you. I would have paid him no attention. I mean, of course, I don't think that's what Mike said. I think what he said was why don't these people do it with you when you're there? And I'm like, you're 6'4", 6'5", and 300 pounds. What is really somebody going to do to you? So, there's a lot of things that he doesn't get to experience, but my children have been there to experience it. So it's like, not only am I a mother, a woman, and a black woman experience these things, I'm also supposed to just not allow the oppressors to oppress me. But when it's physically and verbally happening to you, I go to the store, I get looked at. I do minor things that minorities what we talk about on a regular basis, those things do happen. I don't pay them any attention, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't eat away at me because I know what's happening. So that is what causes these issues in these interracial relationships, because the person who is white normally says, well, I don't have to deal with those issues, and I won't allow somebody to oppress me, and I pay it no attention, and I pay it no mind, but it's like, it's physically and verbally happening to me. So what do you do? What do I do about that? Isn't it a hard topic to talk about?
It's really hard because, like, I can see from a male perspective. I can see from my perspective as well, because I can see in those situations. I can say, Kiana comes back and says something like that, like something did happen like that actually, like during Christmas shopping season, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're up in Marysville of all places.
Oh, lovely.
On the other side of State Avenue, not by the toilet side, but we're at the Bath and Body Works, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna wait in the car because I don't want to go in there, because I'll go in there if I'm in there too long, I get a headache, etc. Because of all the different,
smells,
scents and everything. So Marysville, being the lovely place that it is, Kiana goes in there, and she's in there, browsing, yada yada. There's about white people in there, and this mother is there with her child. He's maybe 7 or 8, really young. And it's not, jeez, I don't mean to laugh, but the kid's like, hey, Mom, look, it's another one of them Chinese. And Kiana looks around like, because she's like, wait, I'm not Chinese, she does like a 360, like, huh? Like, oh, me? And the mother replies with like a smile, oh, honey, and they walk off.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, she comes back to the car. She tells me what happens, but I kind of find humor in it because I can see it. But that's me kind of minimizing what happened. But in reality, it did a lot of damage there because, I hurt her because she's like, this little kid so young, if he has, racism type attitude, if I had to like describe it at that age, is kind of sad to see,
Exactly. So, but that's another experience where maybe it is a woman thing. Then I don't know, but I mean, I've spoken to plenty of black men in interracial relationships with their white girlfriends or white wives or whatever, that do feel the exact same way. They get in bigger arguments or I don't want to say these are like extreme arguments, like where you're going to break up or whatever. They're just communications that maybe get a little loud here and there, or might end up, somebody might go in the other room for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, you're irritated. Little minute, little piquito things like that is exactly what people in interracial relationships are dealing with. And the person, unfortunately, it always seems to be, and it's not always, but majority of the time, the white person is like, well, it's not that big of a deal. And you have to learn how to but how do you learn when it happens daily, weekly, monthly, yearly? So that will always be that. There's always going to be that separation or that barrier when you're in a interracial relationship and you start experiencing what people have to say or whatever. How do we as a unit, because we are one, but there's always that separation when it comes, especially when it comes to that racial issue. Why is it that I envy Mike because he can just act like it's not a big deal. I get jealous because I feel he has white privilege. Not because I want the white privilege, but I just want to know what it feels like. You know what I mean? I want to know what it's like. I want to know what it's like to not have to change my name on my answering machine and leave off the law and just keep Shauna because it sounds better to, or it appears better more to my white clients instead of putting Lashawna on there. You know, those are the things that he will never experience or understand what I go through. Like I said, waking up and getting in the car and your heart flutters when you have the police is next to you or behind you. It's not because I'm not licensed. I've never even had a speeding ticket. But it's what has happened to me previously, what I've seen physically with my own two eyes, and that is my life's experience. So how does one not allow the oppressor to continue to keep oppressing when it's difficult physically still happening?
Because I can see from my perspective, it may be from, you know, like a white perspective or male perspective, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if it happened to me, I know how I would handle it, because, like, I wouldn't tolerate it, and just that's that. I'd probably go over and, you know, get in their face, tell them, you know, like, you know, what's up, what do you want to do, you know, because you're not going to disrespect me like that. That's one way of handling it. But if I can see what type of, you know, I can see the person doing it, and I'm not going to sink myself low to that level with that person, and because if I am, I'm just as low as that person there, you know, so I'm just like, you know what, fuck that person. And if I, like I said earlier, it's like, if I let these things get to me, it's hard not to. It's hard not to personalize things like that. But if I give it that power, it's just going to make me miserable emotionally and mentally. You know, if I give it that fraction of power, you know.
It oppresses you even more by letting them oppress you. It's really what it boils down to.
It is, and it's easier to just, you know what, just to mentally kind of check out on what they say, like, you know, just let it breeze by, you know. But if it's like really like a huge dagger, then obviously, you know, something, then a verbal altercation will probably happen, you know, at least from my perspective.
See, I think I deal with it in the same way. I mean, if I had somebody that was, you know, if you want to get crazy with it, we can get crazy with it. If you're just being dumb and I feel like you're an idiot, I might outsmart you. But say some shit back to you that's smart. Smart Alex, smart ass, you know, like make you feel dumb.
Exactly.
But if it's like,
but I don't get. That's where I think that that's another thing that just it's a barrier, because as much as I would like to jump across the table and slap a bitch or cuss the person out behind me, we deal with people calling the police on us all the time, and we deal with probably 8 times out of 10, if there is an altercation, guess who's going to jail? You know, it's easier said than done. So see, that's where my like frustration or my irritation comes from, is because it's easy for both of you guys to sit here and say, and I hate to break it to you, Aaron, you would be the one to go to jail. You might be the one who gets shot by the police.
Well, I'm sure Aaron's not sticking around, though.
No, okay, well, and I get that, but it's just, there's so many things that are.
It's just a different, like I told you earlier, it's a lens thing. You're a female, you're black, we're males, he's Native and Hispanic, I'm white. So it's a lens thing. I'm telling you how I deal with the situation through my lens. He's going to tell you how he's going to deal with the situation through your lens, his lens. And you can't deal with that situation the same way for whatever reason, you know, because you feel like, or I guess it's true, you know, you're going to get arrested by the police, you're going to get harassed by the police, you could get shot by the police. I mean, those are things you got to take into account through your lens. We're telling you just through our lens. We're not, I mean, I don't know how to tell you to deal with certain situations. I don't, because I don't experience it. I'm not a female and I'm not black. But we're just telling you what we're going to do. I ain't putting up with it. Period. Like, I'm either going to, like Arian said, I'll blow it off if I think it's just like Like in her situation, a little kid, I would have just blew it off because he's a little kid.
So would I, absolutely.
But if somebody's screaming in my face or talking crazy to me and we're like face to face, I'm gonna make them look really dumb. That's number one. I'm gonna try to do that. And if they really want to go, then we'll go. I mean, that's what it boils down to. So, but that's through my lens. It's through my personal lens. So, I don't know what to tell you, realistically. What do you got, Aaron? You got any perspectives on it?
Yeah, it's a hard one. It's just like I say, it's sad to see because it's a lot of the influence of all this like racism all comes from like the news and like social. I think it's kind of fueled by social media and just the negativity of news and everything, or possibly through whatever type of source of entertainment, It's just like whoever's plugging in all this stuff that's feeding the general public on what they see on a daily basis that instills this core beliefs on people. I think that person's a piece of shit for deceiving all these people to make them diverse and not like each other or hate this person because they're a certain color, And it's sad to see because like you feel like you think at least some point in time we would have moved on. I can understand from like maybe the 40s, 50s, 60s. I can see how their attitude is, up until today, my dad a little bit had to deal with like that. He grew up in Oregon. He was the only person that was Native Mexican, and of course, at that time was a rough time for, blacks, African Americans, not being able to, use the same pool as one another, which is fucking ridiculous once you think about it. And, it's just a different time that they grew up in, and I couldn't imagine even growing up in that time, being programmed or brainwashed to hate another person because, they're different colors is, it's bullshit. So, and, what's his name? I just saw the other day, actually. What's his name? Mr. What's his name? That old guy that had a sitcom, Mr. Jingles or Mr. Rogers. Yeah, Mr. Rogers. I saw him. They said he broke a barrier.
He did.
He broke a barrier with this
with the black
guy with the black cop on there. Yeah. And they shared the little pool together and washed their feet together. I thought that was really cool to see, and it's something for that time, when amongst all the racism going on. I think that was really cool of Mr. Rogers to do something like that, to try to spread positivity and to embrace one another, regardless of what color skin you are.
Right. So, I think you're right. Like I think that they're basically doing we're basically regressing.
It's just history.
Racially through social media and the news, and it's just like the more you pour out about, like for example, we had that time, right? I think right as Trump was getting elected, I can't remember exactly, but there was a shooting every day on social media where some black man was getting shot, and it was overemphasized, and it basically just scared black people even more into thinking that cops are going to shoot them. Now here's a thing, or even a statistic. I don't have the exact statistic, but here's the thing: this has been happening since I was a kid. For sure.
Well, no, the cops are definitely
not even a higher. It was higher back then, probably, than it is now. But it sure as hell scared people with the propaganda pushed forward by the news media and the social media, emphasizing the fact that black people are getting killed by cops. And that's just one example of a thing that came and it went. But did black men start getting killed less? No. No, it hasn't changed. If not, it's gotten worse. So why aren't we seeing that on a daily basis anymore?
Well, but my issue is not with what is going on with social media or the outlets or people that I'm talking to. My issue is slowly being in an interracial relationship and not having or feeling that my white partner is sympathetic or understanding to the way that I feel all day, because it's easy for you to look through your lens, like you said, and say, I won't allow it to happen or whatever. I'm not talking about the social medias and the stuff like that. I'm talking about just being in an interracial relationship and having those little barriers that probably every relationship has. It could be, one person likes the 49ers and one person likes the Seahawks. It's a barrier and it's always going to be there. So is it just something that we are always constantly going to have to deal with?
But what's the difference? What was the difference between, you said this started around 2 years ago, right? Around the time you got elected. So what's the difference between 2 years and the years before?
I think it's just been more upfront, and I've experienced a lot more of the name calling, of the bullying, of the snickering, the stares, the snickers, and maybe a little, I think, self-awareness, growing, learning, discovering, maturing, becoming more wise, but also still having those questions. I think by having a person who is a racist, misogynist, narcissistic person in power and having the sheep follow and stuff like that, and being the person that I am, where I love everyone and I love humanity and I just want everybody to get along and fuck your labels, because I really don't like that. Seeing it happen first, experiencing it firsthand, and me coming home and expressing my feeling to you of what has being verbally assaulted or whatever, and coming home and you saying, I pay it no attention, and you saying,
I don't though.
It's not that big of a deal. But it is a big deal to me. So I'm just, that is what I'm talking about.
I can tell you the difference between then and now. Then and now, you've had a president that's empowered people to go ahead and be racist. That's what you have.
Well, no, those people were always racist.
Right, but it gives them more of the key to the city or whatever, the ability, the backbone to be more upfront in their racial thought process. Because there's no...
Well, they just crawled out of their caves.
There's no
with their mouth.
Repercussions to having it done, right?
There's no repercussion, but then I'm just left to suffer. So
that's happened also, and that's happened through the news, social media, like I told you. And then what has happened on the black side of everything is that you've had an overemphasized things that are happening through the black community, but they think they're doing a good thing. Some of them may think they're doing a good thing. Some of them I think is just propaganda, and they're pushing that through to oppress you even more. So that's what's happened in the last 2 years. You've getting an empowerment by the same things that are oppressing you for white people, and they're oppressing black people, and that's where the divide's happening. The divide's no, nothing's changed before Trump and after Trump. Nothing's changed except for those things: media, propaganda, through social media and the media on the news.
So you think that the separation or lack of understanding or the barrier of the wall between being in an interracial relationship, which I bet you if we could find people who are 50, 60 years old who have been in an interracial relationship for 30, 40 years, I guarantee they feel the exact same way I feel. And it's not because of news, and it's not because of propaganda. I solely feel it's just I don't solely feel. I guess I just feel like it's a topic that is very difficult when you're in a interracial relationship. That's not really talked about. It's for at home. You know what I mean? It's that at home discussion. Nobody really talks about it out loud. And I think it's hard because you end up doing this. We talk in circles, and nothing really gets solved. We express how we feel, we say what we're saying, but at the end of the day, did we solve anything? Or of course, we're learning how to better communicate about these racial issues and about emotions and feelings and sympathizing and being empathetic and all this stuff. We're learning how to do that, but I'm just saying collectively, there's always going to be a barrier when you're in a interracial relationship, especially when it's black and white. And so maybe there just isn't a way to fix it besides doing what we do best, which is communicating and just trying to stay humble and be happy and the best we can be. But at the end of the day, I still wish you were a little more sympathetic. But maybe you just can't see it because he's just a white guy. He's just a big white guy.
Maybe that's just his way of maybe trying to just influence you and say, hey, it's not a big deal, you know?
Really, Aaron?
Yeah, because, maybe, it is a big deal, you know? But, maybe him by saying it, be like, okay, maybe I should just downplay it, because the more I downplay it, the more I'm not going to really personalize it.
Or maybe it's just men being men and just being non-emotional.
No, men are emotional, you know? It's just sometimes, you know, if I'm going to dwell on this thing, the more I dwell on it, obviously it's going to make you more miserable. It's going to make you more pissed off. It's going to make you more, hurt. It's going to make you, you know, more emotional. So, if you know if you're going to basically not going to get anywhere with it. It's not, racism isn't going to be solved probably ever. Who knows? So if it's going to be a continuous circle.
Yeah, definitely not in our lifetime. I don't expect to find the right answers. I think the reason why I did want to come on the podcast tonight was just to let others know that there are other people out there that, such as myself or my husband, that we do endure these small little bumps in a relationship, you know, like I said, and in no way necessary were we ever going to get a divorce, or anybody that I've spoken to we're going to get a divorce or be separated by this, but it is something that's there, and there are people out there that experience the same things, and maybe I may be more sensitive and emotional about the things, although it's physically and verbally happening to me. There are people out there that feel the same exact way that you do, and you know, I am more than happy to talk with anybody about that or anything like that. Sure, my husband, he's been kind of quiet, which is weird. You're the guest. I know, it's weird, but you know, we'd be more than happy to talk to anybody like that, as you know, if they wanted to. I did actually just today get an Instagram. I'm doing big things in the world, people. So my Instagram is lala.hamilton1, and reach out to me if there are any issues. Like I said, it's okay to communicate, and I think communication is key to a happy, healthy relationship. But it was just one thing that's been on my mind, and like I said, I'm in a healthy, happy relationship, but that doesn't mean that relationships don't have their little bumps and their forks in our paths or our road or our journey, however you may believe. And so it was just something I just wanted to bring up and kind of talk about, and I appreciate you, Aaron, from your perspective, my little bro. You know, it does help to talk about it, and you know, once you talk about it, you do kind of feel better. So yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on here, And I know time kind of went a little further than maybe you guys wanted to go, but it's always good to communicate and talk about real subjects that people are uncomfortable talking about. And I think it's healthy when you discuss them and just put it out in the open with no hard feelings and, you know, just emotions on your sleeves and just keeping it real, you know. Reality check, folks. It really does happen.
Absolutely.
It happens.
While we're semi on the topic, I got a different quick story for you real quick before we wrap it up.
What's up?
So, here's this headline I just checked out here earlier. It says this happened to a couple in Spain just here last month, right?
Mm-hmm.
The headline reads, "White woman gives birth to black baby and blames her white husband." So this lady, right, she has this baby, this white couple. She ends up having a kid, and the kid is, you know, in her arms. She's rocking him back and forth, and it says under her lips, she whispers under her lips, "You son of a bitch. Have you been sleeping with black women?"
What?
And all of the nurses and all of the doctors or whatever in the delivery room are just trying to hold in their laughs. Everybody was saying. I just thought that was hilarious. I was like, oh my god, this bitch.
Did she have a C-section? Because I mean, that sounds like morphine talking, more or less. I mean,
no,
was she like? Wow.
It sounds like she got it in with
yeah.
With a black fella.
With a brother.
Who got it in with a brother?
With the milkman. With the milkman. That's what they would have called it in the 40s and 50s. So, must have been the milkman.
So I thought I'd share that with you guys really quick.
Well, thank you for making me laugh.
Sweet,
So,
sweet.
yeah.
Alrighty, let's wrap this sucker up. Till next time.
See ya later, suckers.
Adios.